Before you start writing a case study, you should conduct a literature search to make sure that your case is sufficiently different from others to justify writing a report about it. A literature search should be carried out using suitable databases like Medline or PubMed, or the Index to Chiropractic Literature or Google Scholar. The review of the literature will be an important component of your case report, but you will not include a full literature review like you would if you were writing a dissertation or thesis or a standalone literature review. Modern literature reviews are important designs used in the application of evidence-based healthcare and have a specific purpose and style. However, your case report should focus on the case presented and not be a hybrid paper combining a lengthy literature review and case report. Case reports and full literature reviews are separate study designs and should be published as such. So your initial literature search, really what you're doing there is making sure that it's worthwhile to write your case study. So have a small number of similar case studies been reported? If so, then maybe it is worthwhile writing it. If there's a large number of case studies very similar to yours, and also one or more RCTs that have been done with a similar focus to your case study, then it might not be relevant for you to write and publish this case study. So you've done your literature search and you've decided that it will be a worthwhile task to write your case study. Where do you start? Well, the most important thing an author can do to enhance the chance that their case study is going to be accepted is when they begin writing it, they need to be following the journal's instructions for authors. So consult the journal's instructions to authors before you start writing to make sure your report fits the journal's requirements. So this could be length, number of references, required information, etc. Now, these instructions are usually posted on the journal website, and they give you detailed guidelines for how to prepare your manuscript for submission. If you don't follow the guidelines, chances are that your submitted manuscript will be returned pretty much immediately simply because you didn't follow the directions. So to find the journal's instructions for authors, you really need to decide very early on which journal you're going to be submitting your case study to. Some journals, I think I've mentioned already, they just simply don't publish case studies. Other journals, they love to publish them. So there are a number of chiropractic journals or even journals outside of the chiropractic profession that might be a great place for you to submit to. I would suggest that what you do is you look at some of the journals that are out there, or look at some of the case studies that you can come across if you do a review of the literature to see where they're published, and get a feel for the types of case studies that each journal publishes and where yours will fit best. And decide on that early, and then go to that journal to look for their instructions to authors, because their instructions may be very different from another journal. This can be quite a problem when you submit to the journal that you thought was best for your case study, and they turn you down, and then you have to reformat for another journal. Something else to consider pretty early on when writing a case study is determining who will be listed as authors and in what order. Usually the author who does the most work on the project is listed first, and only those involved in a substantive way are listed as authors, since it's unlikely that a single case will be managed by a large team of providers. One would not expect to see more than a few authors on a case report. So if you submit your case report with 10 different authors on it, chances are the editor of the journal will be a little bit suspect about how much of a contribution everyone's made. To be considered for authorship, you need to have provided a substantial contribution to the case. Generally, that's going to be writing up of the case or revision of the case before it's submitted. You will also have to give your final approval of the version to be published. So if someone doesn't meet those criteria, but they've contributed to the paper in some way, they may be thanked for their contribution in the acknowledgement section of the manuscript. One other thing that you need to consider before you begin writing your case study is, do you have the patient's consent or the guardian's consent if it's a child to write the case study and publish it? Obtaining consent is mandatory for some journals, but it's important to realize that this is a demonstration of good practice So if a patient refuses to sign a consent form, which is usually provided by the journal you submit to, you should respect their wishes and not submit the case for publication. Before we move on to the next class, let's do some review questions just to make sure you've taken in the main points from this class.